Touche.
How can we help?
Jarvis has found a couple heat signatures that might be concentrators, but they're...
What's going on, my phenomenal Super Shape Phenom here? Welcome to part 5 of my playthrough of Marvel's Avengers on PS5.
Jarvis, how much longer?
Approaching the location
Hopefully you
shortly,
can enjoy watching me play the game.
You gotta find those initiator cores and get back to fixing. It's only a matter of time before AIM pinpoints the Chimera's location, and we need our base of operations up and running.
I'm pushing so hard, I cracked the back of the seat, and it slides, so I fly backward, and now I'm completely prone. Supine.
Whoa. Where is everyone?
Seems AIM has evacuated the city due to heavy inhuman activity.
Sounds like an excuse to experiment on dangerous technology. Maybe your heat signature hunch was right. A giant stash of initiator cores could power their experiments.
The facility is heavily guarded. Expect resistance upon your arrival.
You mean they won't be happy to see me? Shut up. This place is a ghost town. Jarvis, how far is the facility?
A few meters up ahead, sir.
And grab the bow of this thing, or whatever the fuck, and tie it up and drag us in. And by then we were almost sunk. And also, I said, what the fuck? I said, what the fuck? He said, you want another one? I said, no. Right now. We had to sit down twice just walking back up the hill. Well, I'm sorry that you're so sad, but you should be in a paddle boat and be photographed by WWF magazine. I can tell you, all these other kind of boats. A couple of times we've done the Belle of Louisville here. It's a paddle boat, steamship cruising down the, not steamship, but it's a paddle boat, paddle wheeler, cruising down the Ohio River.
Good night.
And that's not bad, because once again you can see the sides, and it's fairly large, so I don't think it's going to sink
Is there
the
anything
Ohio.
AIM didn't steal from me?
So I'm not worried about that. I've been on one cruise, and well, we were in TNA, and we were down there 2 weeks in a row, because it was holiday time, so instead of coming all the way back home, again, Stacey, I was, well, we'll get a cruise, and Bob Ryder fixed us up with a cruise. From Tampa, we just drove down to Tampa from Orlando and left from Tampa and went to Cozumel, and then back and went and did the TNA stuff
was
the next
all
week.
about clean energy, but
I'm gonna bet Monica was involved with this somehow.
she handled the redistribution of stock assets within AIM.
Not down the
Safe
river,
bet then.
but floating out in the ocean. You know, I'm seeing all these, you know, the clips and the videos and the commercials and things where people are just dancing and playing musical instruments, and there's a guy cutting a diamond, just things that you can do that require great motor skills and coordination. I'm thinking this is going to be like just sitting in your house, right? God damn it! The first 24 hours we get on this boat, as soon as it takes off, the seas are rough, the winds are high.
Multiple hostiles detected near the laboratory. Be
Be
mindful on your approach.
Well, Johnny can't be sure they're hostile until they're shooting
What
at
do they
you.
call them on a ship? Not breezeway, the hallways of the thing. And people are bouncing back and forth off the walls like a video game. Bang, bang, I'm leaning on shit. And the next moment, like that, and we got the biggest room they had with its own private balcony and a king-size bed and a blah, blah, blah. But the bathroom was still so small you couldn't look at it without it burning yourself. And the shower was like stepping into a goddamn boat. I had to put my knees together, scrunch down, put my head down to get in the shower. So I'm trying to shower full of boats going back and bang, 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 and it looked like a goddamn scene from Gilligan's Island. And I was about to say I've made a drastic error. We're going to be on this thing for 4 days. And then things calmed down. And then, you know, we could sit out on the deck.
Emergency status has increased to a code red. Please make haste to the nearest exit. Do not collect your things.
There's a lot of people. I would never go on the wrestling cruise. Because if you know anybody on a boat, there's no way you can get away from it. And there's very few excuses you can come up with unless land. And Diana Nyad couldn't swim with son of a bitch back home. Google that one, folks. So it was a bit. If there had been a storm, I would have added the cruise ships to my do not fly list. But now I just don't want to get on a cruise ship because of the spreading of the disease and the pestilence. Oh, also, just real quick, before we get into the program and things go downhill from there, over the past couple of shows, we've been reminding everyone not to patronize the folks at Spectrum for your internet or cable TV or phone or anything else, because we told the story of succeeding weeks, the multi-part situation, how they screwed up my service, they lied to me, now they're stealing my money, I'm paying for the best service they got, I ain't getting it because their people on the phone don't know how the shit works, their customer service sucks, blah, blah, blah. I've said all these things. I think it's time that we let the people have their say. Because I don't know if everybody's aware of this or not, but as I mentioned, Spectrum is charging me for services they're not providing. And it's up to me to call them and hear endlessly how they can't help me because they can't figure out their shit, because that's how I got in this position. And instead of doing that, I'm going to get my money back the old-fashioned way through vindictiveness and just try to save everybody else's suffering of having these people in their lives making these announcements. We put the clip on Spectrum from last week's show up on YouTube, the official Jim Cornette YouTube channel that now has 262, I believe, thousand subscribers. Is that correct?
Yeah, but we can do better.
Well, we're doing better. We're adding every day.
Yes.
That's where it's at now, but don't blink, you'll miss it. It keeps going up. But we put the Spectrum clip on the YouTube channel, and in less than 2 days, it's at around 20,000 views and climbing. But a lot of people are making comments, and I thought we would just read a few of the listeners' comments about Spectrum.
Oh, now these are actual Spectrum customers, not just people commenting on a Jim Cornette video. They're saying they're customers?
Well, yes, they or in some cases, employees, either former employees or potentially now, current employees. Well, we've read a couple of those emails from current employees. But anyway, you're damn right, Jim. We are getting cheated on and lied to. I have Spectrum call almost every other day about problems and how high the bill has risen. Another one, Corny's right, price goes up every month. Another one, Cornette, I have Spectrum and their ass. They charge me $300 a month for slow internet that's supposed to be their best internet. I sympathize there. Apparently, Spectrum used to be Comcast. I had a bunch of people say that they changed whatever. Comcast kept getting Golden Turd Awards, so they changed it. I love that. Everything Jim said is how I feel. I'm a Spectrum customer, and they are horrible. I'm from Oklahoma and worked at a call center selling and setting up Spectrum cable internet. We do not have Spectrum in Oklahoma. Even though they work there, they absolutely suck. And many people tell me they were switching. Used to be a senior line tech for Spectrum before they bought out Time Warner Cable. They're builders and approved compatible devices all out there bunch of shit that they never do a damn thing to maintain. Their cable boxes are worse. It wouldn't surprise me if they're still using the same shit they used when I worked here years ago. Apparently, some people are forced by living in apartments to purchase cable and internet. Hold on.
I don't know if there's much of a comeback from this.
Basically, I haven't seen anybody saying, "Oh, Spectrum is lovely." So this is what you get, folks. And some people don't have a choice because they're the only provider available. And if you have a choice, do not bring Spectrum into your life.
I remember on Long Island, we just had a monopoly
one other comment here. As a former employee of Spectrum, it was my experience that we were told to actively
This
lie
place
to
is a
customers
ghost
to
town.
ensure increased billing.
Jarvis, how far is the facility?
And
A few
as
meters
a
up
fellow
ahead, sir.
Spectrum user, Jim is right on the money. I hate their cable boxes. And someone else, I know from experience, Spectrum absolutely sucks.
I know from experience.
I
that
know
they
from
suck.
experience. And then, of course, this clip was titled Jim Cornette on Spectrum, and one person said, looking quickly, I thought it said Jim Cornette
Anyone else
on
nearby?
the Spectrum.
Civilians?
And got
Evacuation began this morning. Good.
But anyway,
Can't let
so
anyone get
that's
hurt this time.
our
Hover scout
weekly,
platform. Is there anything AIM
warning
didn't steal
about
from me?
Spectrum cable and internet and phone and whatever else across their own spectrum.
I'm sure they like this brand of advertising, but Jim, of course, here on the
Well,
drive.
you know, one of the bigwigs can call me at some point and say, hey, we'll actually fix your shit that we screwed up this time.
See, that's your problem. You're so this is the piece box. Fuck you. I'm going to whatever the other service in town is.
Because then they'd have to drill more holes in my wall and start this whole process over, and I don't believe that any of the other shit works or that anyone knows how to work it either. I have no confidence that anybody that would replace what I've got with something else would know how their shit works either.
With no confidence, so you need a confidence man.
I need a confidence man.
Sounds like there are tons of con men over at Spectrum.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna go ahead and have the Control Brothers look at this. Round them out. They need new careers. They've actually used the promo code CodeCat to both round and out.
You know what I just started reading that you may like? Tinder Box. It's the oral history of each show. It's really the history of England. It's pretty interesting.
Well, I would, if you're looking for something for Christmas, I would enjoy that because, I love music and I love oral. Yeah, so that.
All right. I wish this was your show today.
Well, it's not.
God damn it.
How about that? How
That
about
sucks.
that?
That sucks.
Evacuate or find your nearest shelter. Evacuate immediately. Repeat. All residents.
All right, well, let's see how good these next questions are. Jim,
Open it back
Charlton
up
was
to the
all
people.
about clean energy. I'm gonna
Let
bet
the people
was
speak.
involved with this
let's see
somehow.
what they have
She
to say.
handled
This
the
one was sent to
redistribution of
drive-through at
stock
gmail.com
within
from
AIM.
Alex in Latrobe, Pennsylvania. The subject line says, was WCW really that much of a threat? Happy holidays to both of you. For a 24-year-old that never got to see the rivalry between WCW and the WWF, was Vince or yourself ever really worried that you might be losing the
Multiple
battle?
hostiles
And when
detected
did
near
you
the
think that
laboratory.
WCW changed
Be
into
mindful
the
of your
Outlaw
approach.
Mud Show
Well, no,
that
Jarvis, you
people
can't be
loved
sure they're
around?
hostile till they're shooting at you.
I think that Vince was, at some point, he was worried. I don't know that he was ever convinced they would lose the war or whether he gave that vibe off and let people believe that in some instances so that they would fight harder. As far as losing the battle,
Emergency status
we
is
did,
increased to a code
and I
red.
say we because I was
Please
there
make haste to the
then.
nearest exit. Do
Lost a
not
number of
collect your
battles.
things.
But the
Emergency
war is a
status.
different thing than one or two
Yeah,
battles.
that's not
I
good.
personally, I always said this. I said this then. I've said it since then. So I'm not trying to do revisionist history. I always thought that at some point what happened was going to happen. I didn't know how long it was going to take, but from looking at the WCW television program, from reading things that happened behind the scenes and accounts of things, from talking to people that worked there, and the lack of coordination or, what's the word I'm searching for besides coordination? Just the lack of Vince's business. His company always had its shit together, even if creative was bad or the talent was down or whatever. The company as a structure always had their shit together. They were well entrenched, well established. They had a bigger foothold in Canada and overseas, which is why a couple of those years there when it was a little dodgy, that WWF was doing the overseas tours more often because they could still draw, you know, mega gates over there. WCW only had a brief period of time where they were really over, you know, in Europe and etc. Before it all fell apart. So I always thought that, well, yeah, Jesus Christ, they're doing business and they're outdrawing us on TV ratings or whatever. I could not believe that as haphazardly as I was hearing and reading and seeing that company was run and all the various things that they did during the hot period. I thought sooner or later, the wheels are going to come off. And they did. I didn't think that Vince, in the end, I didn't know how long it was going to take, but I didn't think that Vince, in the end, a promotional tour to a company being run like that. And that, you know, they helped out considerably in the last 18 months that they were around, but I thought that Vince would end up, and I didn't know that the WCW was going to go out of business. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that I thought that eventually, you know, the WWF would still emerge as a clear front runner around the world just because of the difference in how the businesses were run. But nobody could have predicted that the thing would fall apart as quickly as it did at the end. WCW and be sold like that for peanuts.
What percentage of the people in the company, in the office, if you know, amongst the wrestling people, I guess I should say, actually believe the whole woe is me, big bad Ted Turner's coming after little old me, I'm just trying to operate myself, I would never do anything to hurt anyone else? How many people really believe that? Because a lot of people certainly repeated it.
Well, almost everybody. Bruce repeated it. I don't know if he believed it. Almost anybody, but like, you know, I mean, I'm sure Pat Patterson, Jerry Briscoe, JR, that deep down they knew, okay, there's a little tit for tat here, but most people had been WWF employees or in the WWF system, insulated. You know, at that point, they bought all the revisionist history, along with the stuff we talked about where we're not wrestling. Because you get, you know, people that worked in the studio, just the production assistants or editors or, you know, people whoever, technicians that would say, well, you know, we're not wrestling. Just like that's... They believed it because they didn't know that it was a marketing ploy that Vince had come up with to differentiate himself from professional wrestling. They bought that. Then if you sat them down and said, well, what's the difference? They couldn't really tell you. Because it was never explained in any way that you could actually grasp how the WWF wasn't wrestling. It was just, we're not wrestling. As that one time in a meeting, when Shane brought up, what should we call our performers besides superstars? And I said, well, they're wrestlers that have wrestling matches wearing wrestling boots and wrestling tights while in a wrestling ring working for a company called World Wrestling Federation. How about wrestlers? It was there. I had to do it. I know everybody was mad at me. That's probably why I couldn't have nice things and etc. But it was fucking there. What do we call our wrestlers? And I liked Shane.
He didn't know any better. That's what he had brought up around.
Yeah.
You hear like that twisted history. Like Ted Turner trying to put my family out of it. Ted Turner probably never said the name Vince McMahon. What do you think he said it 5 times in 10 years? He didn't give a shit. He was the GM with the run.
Basically, the story that Turner called Vince up and said, hey, Vince, I'm in the wrestling business. That's true. But Ted Turner wanting to buy the WWF, and that's why he kicked him off TBS. That's not true. That's not true. That's not true. But where I was going with that was that seems to have made people believe that Ted Turner and Vince McMahon were on the phone with each other all the time. And that was one of the very handful of conversations that they ever had on the phone.
one of those days? Well, here's our first question sent to cornydrivethru@gmail.com from Ron in Cleveland. Everyone is talking about the alleged sale that may or may not be happening by WWE. Call me crazy, but we have heard Disney buying WWE. I find it somewhat strange that the Khans are billionaires and own pro sports teams, but are not in talks to buy WWE. Disney has allegedly leaked. Oh, that's the entire sentence.
Disney's leaking?
I guess he means baby.
He better get that stopped up. It might be contagious.
There logically would be a few big corporations interested in that property. I would imagine the billionaire family who happens to be the next biggest promotion would be as well. But that's just me. What say you, Jim? This is sent from my iPhone.
Oh my God. Okay, let's come back to reality for just a second or so. Just because that Shad Khan gave Tony some of his inheritance before it was, too late for Shad, so he could still see what Tony did with it. They invested nowhere near. What is the price of the WWE if it were to be sold? If they're going to sell it, they're not going to take less than $4 billion, right? Somewhere in that neighborhood, that area, right? And a gold egg, right, Vince?
Yeah, Nick Khan.
Yeah. And how would Tony, with the Khan family, have they yet sunk $100 million into wrestling that they haven't gotten back with the TV rights deal, fee, whatever? That's worlds apart. Didn't somebody say that his net value in the Forbes thing was listed as like $8 billion? Are you going to expect them to take half of their worldly possessions and turn around and buy the WWE? Nobody is going to buy the WWE, a major corporation. Well, Brian, you're the business mind here on the program, but no person or family is going to buy the WWE. It's going to be a major corporation like a Disney or a Universal or Amazon or Google or one of these multi-$100 billion corporations. That's where it's going to go. And would the Khans be crazy? Yes, call me crazy. Okay, yes, they would be. To even attempt that, they're doing pretty well, all things considered, with what they've started now, but they do not want to jump into that fucking morass. What do you think, Brian?
I don't think it would be a good move for the Khans. I don't think it would make sense, and I think Tony Khan's doing just fine and having a really good time with his own thing. It'd be a bunch of headaches. I don't think it makes any sense for Disney. I think it makes sense for Comcast, NBC. I think it makes a lot of sense for Liberty Media. That may be something that's not a attractive name out there, but that's one of the ones I would look at, because they're trying to make some aggressive moves right now. I think it's going to be someone who is a content distributor, who's trying to really establish a streaming presence, which is, every fucking content distributor right now, content creator. But I don't think it makes any sense for Disney, because I don't think it's anything that would help in any way with their theme parks. I think they would, a company that has such a firm grip on their intellectual property to the point where you can't put Mickey Mouse on a tombstone. Seriously, you can't do anything Disney related in a school play and use their music. If they find out, they'll come after you. Like, they're fucking hardcore with their intellectual property. How are you gonna deal with that? What do you really own with Hulkamania? What do you really own with The Undertaker? It's the gimmick. You're gonna have random generic Undertakers walking around the theme park, and then how are you gonna keep that personality alive in the future? It's a lot easier with a Disney princess than with a dead wrestler. So I don't think it makes any sense for fucking Disney. And I think, knowing some of the people who are on that board of directors, I don't know if they would think it would made a lot of sense either. But a lot of stupid people do stupid things, and it only takes one stupid owner. That's a baseball philosophy. It takes one stupid owner. It takes one stupid billionaire, and it changes the just don't think Disney makes any sense. I think Liberty Media makes a lot of sense. I think NBC has already shown their business interest with WWE would probably be the easiest transition, but a sale's gonna happen. It's just a matter of...
And I know that a lot of people said, well, the theme park thing, the wrestling theme park, what are you going to ride a fucking suplex roller coaster? Or what? Unless they can figure out a way where the wrestling fans can go to the theme park and actually put on a robot or mechanical suit that makes you a good wrestler, some schlub gets in this mechanical suit, and the suit knows how to wrestle, and you can actually be in the suit and have a match without getting hurt. That might be a theme park attraction for wrestling fans. I don't see wrestling fans wanting to fucking bring the kids to go tug on, like you said, the fake Undertaker's pant leg, because the
Go tug on that. What are you gonna do in a wrestling fucking theme park?
The adult fans are the ones that want to tug on the Undertaker's fucking pant legs. The kids would be like, can we go see the mouse? So, but they're gonna, in some way or another, I can predict this. Whatever sale that happens where the WWE is absorbed, whatever it takes place by a bigger entity to do whatever, it will be more sanitized, more homogenized, less like pro wrestling, relying less on the individual guys and more on the people playing the parts that they come up with, and it'll be the shits. So, actually, it'll be shittier now, or shittier then, than it is now, and we think now it's the shit. It'll be the drizzling shits.
You know, I was talking to a friend of mine the other day who, he worked for WWE, but he's not really involved with wrestling, but he still goes to like the garden. But he knows people who work in the office, but he has nothing to do with wrestling. And he told me that he saw a funny thing at the last Garden show. He said he had never seen anything like it before. And maybe it's, you know, again, he's someone who was there and he never saw it, but maybe just the average person wouldn't mean much. But he said in the middle of the show, while matches are going on, there's Nick Khan schmoozing with people.
So now that I've reached the enemy security system,
Not in the back.
the heat
You
signature
can't see Vince
suggests
McMahon
that
out
this
there
may
doing
in
that.
fact
I mean, that's the
be
thing. That's, I guess, why
a
the
much
visual was so
larger
striking.
power
He was the
source.
head of the company, other than Vince. He's the real head of the company right now.
It's difficult to say.
And he's out there
But our
schmoozing while the
detected
show's
intrusion
going.
has
While
caused
the
them
wrestling
to
event is
initiate a
going on.
self-destruct sequence.
He's out there schmoozing. What
And
do you
based
think
on the
of that?
size of the heat
Well,
signature,
obviously the average fan doesn't have a clue what Nick Khan looks like, so he's able to do that. Vince was always, since before he was in a position of responsibility, he's always been a television figure because he was the announcer. So he would be ringside as an announcer at the Garden whenever they did the live specials or whatever, and obviously he's been a part of, you know, televisions that have been there. But since he was a performer, Vince would not go out in the Garden as the boss of the company, because before he became Mr. McMahon, he wasn't publicly acknowledged as the boss, and after he became Mr. McMahon, he was a performer on the show that shouldn't just be walking around shaking hands with people at ringside. So it's not an apples and apples comparison, but I think the biggest thing is that Nick Khan, if he's schmoozing with people at ringside in, you know, the world's most famous arena, it's people they're trying to do business with, and he can get away with that because the average fan doesn't know detract from the match or distract or cause a stir.
All right, well, that answered that question. And we will now move on as soon as I locate another question. And let's, again, just random question.
Just randomly.
This is what you wanted. This is what you wanted. This one was
People, you wanted it to be. You made us do this, people. This is what you wanted. You made it this way. You know, we didn't want to treat you like this, but you wanted it. You made us do this.
This one was sent to cornydrive@gmail.com from Chad.
Chad! Oh, Chad!
Please elaborate.
Look at all my beautiful stars.
Please elaborate. Please elaborate. Charlotte Flair was created in some tank, and they used generic genes that made her DNA forget to form hips. Whoa!
Oh, come on.
That's what the email says. It says, whoa. Jesus. It could happen to you. These are the questions that we were getting sent.
And possibly now, one question that's being answered is why don't they read any more of the viewer questions and don't come from Charlie in Starkville?
Sir, time is of the essence.
Look at all this. Is this my fault?
You do not have...
Well, howdy there, Internet people. It's Bo again. So today, we're going to talk about an error that I think is in the making. If you have school-age kids, watch this. Okay, so there was yet another incident. And this one produced some footage that went viral.
Game's willing to destroy everything to
There
hide.
were students, they're in a class, and they're doing everything that they're supposed to do. They're sheltered, right? And somebody knocks on the door, says, "I'm a cop, it's safe to come out now." And one of the students is like, "Yeah, I'm not feeling that." And the person on the other side of the door presses the issue. Says, "No, it's okay, come on out." Students are like, "No. Come to the door and look at my badge, bro." When the students heard the word bro, they're like, "Yeah, red flag, that's not a cop." And they went out the window. First, good for the students. You don't feel safe, get out. Yeah. You are under no obligation to do that. Okay? If you don't feel safe, get out. Now, it did turn out that it was a cop on the other side of the door, but they didn't know that, and they were going off the information they had. They made a call, and good for them. The error that I think is about to be made is by law enforcement agencies that saw this footage. They realize there's an issue, and they want to come up with a way so this doesn't happen again in the future. They want to come up with something that they can say through the door, a conversation they can have through the door to let the students know that it really is a cop. This is a good idea. However, what I have seen go out in the media is for the students to ask department name and badge number. I guess from there, they'll call dispatch, and dispatch will say, "Yeah, that person's there." Or maybe they radio them and say, "Hey, are you trying to get in the door?" And the person says, "Yes." And dispatch gives the students the okay to open the door. And then they do. And then they all get shot. Because Officer Smith is laying in the hallway, and all of the information that is being passed back and forth is visible on his uniform. It's a good idea. That cannot be the information used. Aside from that, something that law enforcement continuously forgets when they're talking about training students on how to deal with this is that when they do it, they are more than likely also training the suspect. The people responsible for this type of stuff, they typically have a planning period.
This is my arc reactor
If they
technology,
know
but
that
supersized.
name, badge number, and department and get them through the door, I'm fairly certain they will go look at the SRO's badge number. They know that person's going to be there. It can't be that information.
Sir,
It's
the
a good
reactors are becoming
idea,
increasingly
but it
unstable.
can't be that
You must
information.
shut it down.
Taking out those amplifiers are the only way to shut it down.
If your kid is told this, then you call the sheriff's department and explain it. That is not the way to do it. The idea itself is very sound, but what should probably happen is for the officer to provide a number. And that number is coming from a place the students don't know. It could be the last four of the serial number on their radio, of their weapon. It could be their call number. It could be anything. But the students don't know what the number is related to. They provide the number through the door. The students call dispatch. Dispatch says, "This is the person's name." The students ask what the name is. And if they get the right number, or they get the right name, then they go look to the door. students to do, you're also probably training the suspect. Because they're probably sitting in the class. So, talk to your kids, find out if that is a new procedure they're being taught. If it is, call the sheriff's department. Because that I also think that we should probably really start to reevaluate stuff now that we're training kids how to deal with stuff like this, and they're having to learn countersign stuff in school. I think in most societies, that's something we should probably see as unacceptable. Anyway, it's just a thought. You have a good day. Well, howdy there, man. It's Bo again. So today we are going to talk about a letter I received. By a letter, I mean a letter, paper. It's from a young person in Texas who is running into difficulties just being because of the climate around them. It has 3 main questions in it, and we're going to go through them all. So there's the introduction, and then it kind of starts off the relevant part. I need to know something. Do you consider yourself liberal, conservative, or neutral? I'm only asking because I'm a blue dot in a red state. When I go to school, I get picked on for wearing a mask, and I get called a communist. I'm very liberal and relate to your ideas and views. I just feel lonely in the sense of ideology because I'm in a very red state, and watching your videos helps me ensure I'm not insane. There are a lot of people in my state who watch right-wing media outlets and constantly attack me for not being to their rhetoric. It frustrates and depresses me so much to the point where I second-guess myself. Is being liberal and encouraging people to wear a mask really communist, like those around me are saying? I also like your video where you explain the First Amendment, because I made one of my friends watch it so he could show his Republican parents. Now, his parents told him to stop being my friend because I'm making him. Okay, so we have 3 main questions. The first is that the obvious one. Liberal, conservative, neutral. It feeds into something else, though. See, in the United States, we like to conflate. We confuse the term liberal and left, conservative and right. That's not really the same. Those aren't the same terms. See, communism doesn't exist on the liberal conservative spectrum. It's not where it is. It's on the left-right spectrum. We'll get to that in a second. When it comes to liberal conservative, that's relative to what's around you. Where I'm standing at right now, there is no doubt in my mind I am the most liberal person in a 50-mile radius. Okay? Yeah. However, if you were to pick me up and drop me into the middle of a lot of countries in Europe, I'm suddenly a moderate. Neutral. Right? So it's relative to what's around you. Living in Texas is a pretty conservative state. So even if you're just slightly liberal, you're going to feel a little more out of place. But that's okay. There's actually nothing wrong with it. It's a byproduct of the way the country is run. Okay, now as far as leading to communism, no, they're not the same thing. You have that spectrum, you have left and right. The general dividing line, as seen by most people, crossing into left territory, leftism, which is where communism exists. You reject capitalism, the current economic system that we have in the United States. And that's what it takes to cross the line into actual leftism. I have a video that I will put down below. It's a conversation between me and Mexi. She's got a PhD in political economy. Nobody explains this better than she does. And for the record, she's a Marxist. She's definitely left. In the U.S., because we conflate liberal and leftist, people then take liberal and say, oh, well, you're a communist. It doesn't have anything to do with that. Nancy Pelosi is a liberal. She is definitely not a leftist. She embraces capitalism. She doesn't cross that line. If you ask most leftists about Nancy Pelosi, they dislike her more than most Republicans.
I'm proud of you, Seth.
It's not the same.
Yeah.
So, is being liberal communist? No. No, not at all. Is wearing a mask communist?
Any luck with those initiator cores?
Question.
Working on it.
No, of course not. Communism is a political and economic theory. Has nothing to do with public health, except it may be in the philosophical sense of, you know, from each according to their ability to each according to their need. Most people have the ability to wear a mask, therefore they should. So maybe they mean it like that, but I doubt it, because that would require them to have actually understood communism. You could make that same argument, in fact I have, with the U.S. Constitution. Provide for the common defense.
Okay, kids, counting on you finding the second heat signature. Hopefully it yields us a bounty of
Contrary to what's happened since the beginning of this, public health isn't the political issue. It should exist outside of politics. It doesn't.
Don't let me down.
Because some people will try to use it for political gain. Now, you have that term communist being thrown at you. From what it sounds like the way, when I was growing up, people would say, oh, that's a gay.
Jarvis?
Has nothing to do with communism, just like it didn't have anything to do with being gay back then. It's just an insult used by people who don't understand.
Suggesting a significant
I wouldn't put a lot of
concentration of
stock in it.
potential initiator cores. It must be stored in a single location.
Now,
the structure, perhaps.
if you're wanting to talk about masks with the people around you, I'd remember that you have to meet people where they are. You could point them to studies about how effective masks are. You could point them to the long history of them being used. You could talk about all kind of medical stuff. Or, remember you're in Texas. Rather than pulling out medical textbooks, I'd pull out the Bible. Leviticus 13, chapter 13, 45 and 46. It might be chapter 16, 45 and 46. Can't remember. I would direct them there and ask them if the Bible is communist. Because if you don't know, in the Bible it talks about how if you have, I think it was leprosy, you should leave your hair unkempt, wear torn clothes, and cover the bottom half of your face. Wear a mask. Wearing a mask is biblical. So that's how I would address that if you wanted to. Now, there's also a part of me that's just like, yeah, ignore these people. Okay? My guess, based on this letter, is that you're probably going to college out of state. Is going to be my guess. But if you want to engage, that there's a tool for you. My favorite part in this, though, is this bit about the First Amendment. The video about the First Amendment, causing him, your friend, to accept liberalism and communist ideas. That shows you how far right we have gone in the United States. There's a thing called the Overton window. And the Overton window is what is the acceptable range of discussion in the United States. And this window can be pushed left or right or up or down or however. And the stuff inside that window, well, it's okay to talk about. But what happens is, if, as has happened over the last few years, that window gets pushed really far to one way, things that are normal, things that are in fact founding principles of the country, start to fall outside of it. The founding fathers of the United States were, in fact, liberals. Period. Full stop. You cannot argue that. That they were liberals. So if you want to learn about the Constitution, if you want to learn about the people who founded this country, yes, you are going to embrace liberalism. As far as it being communist, I mean, that's entirely something else. Again, because it doesn't exist on that spectrum. That being said, along with the video from Mexi that I'll put down below, I'm going to put down a video from the other channel that I did on a person named Thomas Paine. You probably studied them in history.
Been struggling with the passing of our beloved captain.
He wrote Common Sense.
From his
The
recorded
spiritual
memos,
and
he
philosophical
returned to
founder
Cairo
of the United States.
of
This is the person
but instead
who
grew more
told
frustrated
the
with his
colonists
perceived failure.
that they were actually fighting a revolution, not just rebelling and trying to get more
It
rights.
seems they all do, Miss Carter.
This is without the pen of Thomas Paine, Washington's sword would have been wielded in vain. Okay? Paine, he kind of was a leftist. The terminology as we use it today didn't exist back then, as far as rejecting capitalism and all of that stuff. But if you actually sit down and look at what he wrote, he was definitely left. So yes, there are a lot of left ideas in the founding of this country because it was founded by a bunch of liberals and kind of led and steered by somebody who embraced a lot of forward-thinking progressive ideas that fell on the left side of the political spectrum. So I hope that actually answers the questions. Now, as far as feeling alone in your ideology, that's okay. Yeah, I know it may not seem okay, but that's okay. If you feel isolated in the way you believe, if you feel like those around you do not believe the way you do, what that means is that you're not being led around. You're forming your own opinions. You're developing your own ideology. You are becoming your own person rather than just another colleague. I think that's good. I would be proud of my kids for doing that. Now, as far as the question of whether I'm liberal or conservative in my ideology, it is a long-running thing on this channel. I actually don't say it. The reason you have that in mind is I don't say it. And it's because I think one of the most important things is for people to do. For people to form, to develop their own ideas of what is right and good and true. I know what I believe, but I also know I've been wrong about stuff. It would be better if everybody came up with their own opinions and then we kind of worked through them, rather than having a bunch of people on right-wing TV tell them what to think. I know it may be frustrating, it may be depressing, but for what it's worth, I think you're doing a good job. Anyway, it's just a thought. I get that.
approaching more AIM equipment.
Hopefully the kind we need.
Then we must hurry.
Target spotted. That's the Hawk! We need backup out here!
I don't like the look of these guys. They aren't the normal AIM tin cans.
Miss Khan, I believe they may be part of a group who call themselves the Watchdog. A radical anti-superhero organization.
Taking the shot! This is our world.
We have scavenged every part of this desert by now. It's not gonna be enough.
Am I alone?
What?
Where are all the other Inhumans? Why aren't they fighting back? I've seen the resistance symbols. I've heard rumors of a rebellion, but still nothing. I don't feel sick at all. I've never felt more alive. What if I'm wrong?
I know what Dad feels like. These powers are a part of us. And all I do know, it's a lot better if you just embrace that. Something like that.
My dad used to say the same.
Yeah, he's a smart guy.
The best.
You should head back to the Chimera. Okay.
Stay where you are! A kid and an old guy. Alright. Dr. Pym will see you now.
Hank Pym? Hank?
Bruce.
What are you doing out here?
Could ask you the same thing.
Oh, it's good to see you, man.
To see you. Kamala, this is...
Dr. Hank Pym.
Ant-Man?
That was another life. Follow me.
Okay, so this is the heat signature we've been searching for.
We have been salvaging weapons, robots, aim tech, anything we can to build up our defenses.
Think you could spare some of these initiator cores? You know, help out a helicarrier in need of some TLC?
I imagine we can make some arrangements.
Thank you very much.
What is this place?
We call it the Anthill.
Oh.
Not my idea. I think it was one of our anonymous hackers, Tiny Dancer.
No way. So they're all...
Inhumans, yes. Many of them were prisoners at an AIM facility.
I guess they were fighting back after all.
Make yourself at home. We've got lots to catch up.
This place is more than I ever imagined. All those initiator cores. We should really get them to Tony. But I'll leave that up to Bruce.
Oh, hey! Banner's butt. You got a set?
You're the portal guy.
That would be me. Theo, the portal guy, at your service.
I'm Kamala. Your powers are awesome.
Thanks. But you should talk to Sarah. She's up ahead next to the big surveillance screen and is dying to meet you.
Me? Okay.
Welcome to the Anthill, our little home of misfits.
You were in San Francisco on A-Day?
Bingo. Me and my sister both.
Sister? Where is she?
Rolling around here somewhere. You'll know her when you see her.
You were in San Francisco on A-Day?
Bingo. Me and my sister both.
Sister? Where is she?
Rolling around here somewhere. You'll know her when you see her.
Need some help over here. Hi, you're Pim's desert crawling friend. Did AIM send you here to spy on us?
What? No.
I'm kidding. I've got cameras in a bunch of those dead mechs you passed in the desert. It was pretty fun watching you kick Watchdog butt.
Oh, thanks.
I'm Sarah Garza, and the whispers about you are already fierce.
Good whispers?
Hell yeah, we want you on our team. You ever have spare cycles? I've got plenty that needs doing. I would be so pumped if you could help me with this. Maddie bet you wouldn't help, and now she owes me $10. So thanks. Could you check out that chest behind you? Just got a fancy new shipment in and haven't had time to ogle it yet.
Sure thing. I don't know what this is, but I bet Sarah will be excited about it.
My hero! That was a good one. Hey! All right, you do you, even if you suck.